So welcome, guys. TCIM, I see you're in the comments. Everyone else who joins here, I'm sorry we are a few minutes late. Some technical difficulties on my end. That being, I sent the wrong stream link out. But I'm pretty excited about this. We got Taylor Alexander, which I just met briefly a couple minutes ago. But like I went through your site today, and I must say. A really talented individual. I've heard a little bit of your music. I went over to your Human Animals site, which is a fun one because it combines humans and animals in animal things, and the words as well, which is kind of cool. And all of the art that you did over there, you can see one thing behind us on the background there. But it's just some really cool stuff. And Taylor is here to introduce himself, talk a little bit about life, your inspiration, your aspirations, and how you feel about being, I guess, tomorrow's YoshiDrop. So yeah, welcome to the cast. Welcome to the show, Taylor.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here, and I actually became an Upliftium millionaire this morning. Finally, I've been saving and claiming since for about a month and a half now, and I was lucky enough to pull a mythic miner on one of my first packs. So,
which mythic miner did you get?
I think. Hold on, let me check my wallet real quick. This is my first one too. My first mythic. Where is it? Is there a Mike's one maybe, or no? Wayne's World, is that one?
Yeah, Wayne's Worlds. Okay, cool. Wayne's Worlds is a good one. I like it. It's not quite as good as Jimmy's Magic Words, but it's pretty good. I mean, I'm Jimmy. By the way. For those of you out there in the audience that don't know, no, but that's cool. Actually, Wayne's Worlds is one of my favorite ones. It's got those like little spinny planet things, so that's sweet. So do you? I mean, you have a plot in the Uplift that you're developing then as well?
I have a plot, but I haven't had the time to really find it or do any work there yet, but it is something that I have on my list of to do things. I've been able to travel and be performing out on the road again for the first time, like going bi-coastal since before COVID. So that's been awesome for my soul, and just grateful to be back out there. So I do have it on my list of things to do.
I mean, Corey references this a little bit, right? Like it's a blessing, but like a curse at the same time, because he's a musician as well, and he used to play like live gigs, and COVID really stomped a lot of that out, right? Like as a musician who's out there, do you want to maybe like share with us your experience? Like, I'm pretty sure you got hit pretty hard, like mentally as well, like when all this went down. You're no longer able to like put bread on the table, so to speak, with like what you're used to doing. Like, how did you cope, and how did you end up porting, I guess, into where we are today?
Yeah. So I was living in LA. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I moved to LA in 2014 to continue to pursue my music thing. I was, and leading up to COVID, I had a residency in Santa Monica. So I was playing every week down in the Promenade, which was basically paying my rent. And I had a couple other gigs that were monthly, and I was doing pretty well. And then in 3 consecutive days, COVID wiped all of that away, and it was pretty clear to me early on that it wasn't going to be coming back anytime soon, since it was one of the first things affected, and I could just kind of see the writing on the wall. So I ended up moving out of LA back to my hometown in July of last year, and was able to start playing gigs again in August. So I only took 5 months off, which was we never thought it could ever be taken away. So to have that, I thought I'd be able to gig, and I could never foresee any sort of thing that would be like, well, you can't play shows and we don't know for how long. But 5 months was enough to send me into a pretty severe mental health spiral, mostly just like anger. And I also had some clerical errors happen with me in California that ended up making it a little bit more difficult for me financially as well. So it was just kind of like a perfect storm of things for people like myself, and also in the restaurant and service industry, which is a lot of the types of places I was playing, small clubs and venues, just kind of wiped it all out. We didn't get a lot of help, unfortunately. But luckily I was able to have a hometown to come back to, you know, and was able to play pretty regularly. And since this past April or May, it's been pretty close to back to normal to me, if not a little bit more busy. And it seems like people are really excited to hear live music. Like I've noticed more tips and just more general appreciation from audience than I did beforehand, you know, which has been really great as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a weird one to kind of equate, but what is it they always say? Like, you know, death makes like the chance of death makes the heart grow fonder or something. I mean, in a way, COVID has kind of stomped out a lot of what society is and where we are at with that, right? And so when you have people, you know, who are really social, who like going out, who like meeting with their friends, and especially people who like patron those types of venues, like what you're at, right, on a regular basis, and you pull that away from them, it's kind of like asking someone who's partial to CDs to go back to records, or vice versa. Like I actually like records because I like that little, you know, background noise that happens, the little buzz, right? But like asking someone to do that, and then like they get agitated because something's like missing in their life, and I mean, this isn't something that's necessarily easy to fix, right? So I would imagine like it's stressful for everyone, like you said, not just the artist. I mean, I'm in Japan, and when they dealt with it a little bit differently here. I wouldn't say better. I definitely wouldn't say better. But they actually have a bylaw where they can't shut places down. So they just give strong warnings, like, right? Like they're not allowed to tell you that you can't leave your house or whatever. So they give strong warnings, and then they incentivize bars and businesses and stuff to get money from the government if they don't do crazy things like serve alcohol. But then there's the geniuses who are like, okay, well, what if I put up a sign that says bring your own beer, and I let people bring their own beer, and then like, and this is the kind of things that happen, right? And so it's like it's weird right. for me to hear, like, you know, the American side, and like, to all of that points credit, if you're like, you know, America's shutting stuff down or New Zealand shutting stuff down, sucks. Okay, maybe it does, but right now we're in a really bad state in Japan because they can't shut the government down, and like, so now you've got all these businesses that are bouncing in and out, different cities coming in here and there and everywhere. Like theme parks are open, but none of the attractions are happening, right? It'd be like having a restaurant open where they say, hey Taylor, you want to play with us? You want to play for us, but you can't use any musical instruments, and we're not going to serve any food, right? Like,
it'd be like. Yeah, I actually just took a connection flight from Vegas, and Vegas was partially shut down and things were closed, and it's definitely state by state, you know, which every state has had their own ability to do their own thing, which has been another wild, chaotic move, I think. But it's been pretty drastic. I mean, in Ohio, things have been open, but people have been careful. I feel like of the 50 governors, our governor's done a pretty decent job, but it's still just like, it's just wild, man. Like, I'm so glad that I still think there's plenty more to go, but it looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. And actually,
yeah, right. I mean, if you're traveling and playing live gigs, then that's a big step forward to being, you know, locked in your apartment, so to speak, right? Even if it's
totally. Well, and the big thing, and the big thing that changed my whole trajectory with all of this, especially helped my mental, was the discovery of NFTs, because I didn't find out about them until like the last day of February, 28th of February, and
that's awesome.
I learned about it on TikTok. I heard Gary Vee like say something about NFTs going to be the future, and I was like, that's enough. I was like, digital art. I was like, I have art that I've been creating, and I created Humanimals in COVID because my music was taken away. My natural coping mechanism was to turn back to my art, which I always kind of did on the side, and more.
Yeah. Like so I kind of wanted to ask about that. Like, this is some of your art here. Like, I went through your website today. I mean, I don't know, you're going to describe it however you want, but I love it because it's like, this is the first series that I've ever seen anywhere, actually, that like takes personification from an artistic level, like to the level that you have, which is really cool, right? Like, and I just love the fact that you've given all of these animals human characteristics, right? But I was kind of curious, right? So you kind of answered part of my question. This whole series was created, you know, after the whole COVID thing, and it was your mechanism for coping. But where did you come up with the idea, number one, for this? And like, how long have you been doing art? Is this just something that you've been dabbling with for years, and you decided to pull the collection together and throw it out there and see what happened, or how did that, you know, transpire?
Yeah, I've been drawing all my life. I took every art class I could in school because it was an easy A for me. Is the honest truth. But I always did it for fun. You know, it was I was the kid in school who would turn his worksheet over and doodle on the back, and that was just the way I liked to spend my time. So, but Humanimals started as actually I have the very first one. I'll grab it real quick.
Oh, sure. That's cool.
I did it in 2012, somewhere around the first time that I was making my first solo EP. And
That's awesome.
I doodled this little bunny with glasses on with a Sharpie. And then I made him a little friend who is here.
It's like a cross between sorry, I'm going to butcher this, but it's like a cross between the Velvet Underground, image and the latest kind of Alice in Wonderland bunny thing. I like it a lot. It's very musician-y, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was literally just a doodle that I did one day that I liked the idea for, and then I just kind of kept that idea in my back pocket. And I have a couple of the smaller original ones. But then when I moved out to LA and started to have that grind, which was an amazing adventure, and I'm still so grateful to have had it, even though it ended in a sad way. But I started around, I think, 2014, so three or 4 years later. I did my very first one, which is the Boxer on the website. I don't know if you saw that one. It's called A Boxer, Get It? And it's
we're gonna pull it up. So I guess maybe, you can kind of see them here. Definitely go check out the website for yourself.
I think it's down towards the bottom.
All of these are there. There we go.
So I love people and I love animals, and I believe that there's this weird thing where we have in our minds that we're separate from the rest of the creatures of the animal kingdom. There it is on the second row, second into the right.
This one, the Boxer. This is hilarious because I have a shirt that my daughter loves that has that same dog face on it. Only he's not a boxer. But yeah, the hoodie's sweet. I love it.
It's fun. It's playful. I like to laugh, and I love comedy, and I love people, and I love animals. So for me, it was just kind of a natural thing because of what inspires me. And then once I started once I did the Boxer one, I was like, oh, maybe this is something I could turn into a series. And I just started with just these two pens. It's a Papermate black ballpoint and blue ballpoint. And they're just the two pens I had around. So the first series and a lot of the early ones are all in just black and blue. And so I just had used what I had laying around. I use watercolor paper as well. So the ink really grabs, really can soak into it and kind of make it pop. And I try to use the light, the negative and the positive to make the composition stand out. But the Humanimals name came much later as I was branding it. Once I started to do the larger ones, like for instance the one that you have as the background. I have the physical one here. So I started to do them really large. These are all 18 by 24. And once COVID happened, I really started to go. I started to really focus on that, and I created 8 or 9 of these really large ones, and now I have I think I have close to 65 total. So
these are all obviously in print, and then you've also minted them as digital artworks or NFTs as well. Then
some of them, yeah. So I did the Boxer as my first NFT. I got so excited about it, like it literally learning about NFTs kind of lifted me out of the mental state I was in. I've also been in therapy, and having my purpose and my income come back has been huge as well. But literally learning about NFTs and realizing that it could be digital art, and then learning about it could be music too through M Blue and through the Nifty Show podcast is really what got me excited.
So our good friend TC, who's he's been on some of the casts on our show. He's a massive collector, an awesome uplifter. He said he would love to take that picture of the ape. Now I don't know, he might consider now that he's seen the rest of the gallery. But I'm with TC. The ape by far is my favorite one. I like the goat ones as well. I think the Lakers jersey one is kind of cool. There's a splash of color in there. But yeah, there's just something about that ape one that I agree with TC. It's awesome. But anyway, he said he would love to take a picture of that ape and put it up in his gallery. Now, just to give you a heads up, what TC TC's doing in the uplift world is TC's, reaching out to creators of different projects of NFTs, and he's building a gallery around it with QR codes that actually lead to their sales site or to their website. And so like people will someday be able to walk through that gallery and see like all of the art that like gets displayed in that gallery, 1 or 2, premier pieces, and be able to follow QR codes right from within the uplift to the sales page. So if you're interested, definitely touch base with us later and we can put you in touch with TC, because I think what he's doing is really great, like for the whole, NFT ecosystem. And he's doing it in the uplift, which is awesome. So, like totally. So I'm kind of curious because I don't know that much about your drop. I don't know that much. Sorry, I keep forgetting that TC will pay to put them up because they're not free, not even for us. He's a bit of a uplifting whale, we could say. I think he's probably going to make out well because you get land rewards now for people coming and visiting your stuff. So he's building an influencer empire, I think. He might not even know it yet. So back to you and the YoshiDrops thing. I don't know that much about it. I haven't actually heard, which is kind of funny, but I haven't actually heard any of the release stuff. I've heard your music before. I've seen some samples of it. I'm not sure if that's the one that's on the release or not. So when I found out that you were an artist, then I was kind of curious, right? Because a lot of times what YoshiDrops does is it's a matching engine for art and music in a way. And so I think you're original to this. Like every YoshiDrops creator, to be honest, is original. But you're original in the fact that you're an artist and you're a musician. So I'm kind of curious what you're allowed to talk about, because I'm not even sure for the drop. What is it? Is your art mixed in? Is it music? What kind of music is it? Maybe you could fill all the viewers in on that aspect as well.
Totally, yeah. So actually, we just got news yesterday that we're going to push it back to the 17th. We're just having a few little issues with they want to make sure that everything's perfect, and so
wow.
we've agreed to push it back just 1 week.
So my tweet was relevant for about 10 minutes then. That's great. Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I didn't.
And Blue let me know yesterday. We did a podcast.
Yeah, that's no problem. It's perfect. No problem at all.
But so the story is that it's both. It's my music and it's my art.
That's awesome.
In collaboration with Brent Ash, who's really who's NFTifying it and making it even cooler than I could imagine. But the story is that I went to Austin 2 weeks ago. I'm building a live music organization, basically a group that would protect myself and my peers from anything like COVID ever happening again. And I'm doing a lot of research and kind of R&D. I'll put boots on the ground in that right now. And because I knew M Blue was in Austin, I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, do you want to grab coffee or lunch? I was just trying to get some FaceTime because that's how I like to meet people. And I was just hoping to get to meet him, And he was like, why don't you come over to my house and we'll record something? And I was like, okay, great. Like I grew up with music in the home. My dad and sister are musicians. And so I feel more comfortable playing in those intimate settings than I do on a stage in public. So I was like, this is awesome. So went there, met him, met his family. We talked a lot. We had a brainstorm session. Then he asked me to play some songs for him and his family. And I ended up playing 8 songs. And they recorded him from a couple different angles with an iPhone, and that's what turned into the drop. So it's a live versions of 7 of my songs at 7 different rarities.
Okay, so yeah, there's the 7 different rarities combined of 7 different tracks, right?
7 different tracks, 7 different pieces of art.
Are you hearing this, people? Because this is amazing. Like, no offense to the first people who dropped with YoshiDrops, because it was a test case, but I like this. This brings a lot of value to the drop itself, right? Because now, plus, we've changed the tokenomics of what happens with YoshiDrops now as well. Like, you don't just get a drop for having 100 memberships in your wallet. You have 100 memberships, you get 1 drop for each rarity level. I think for the free drops, but I'm not sure if these ones are free. I think these ones, so that's kind of cool. And there's 7 different songs. So if you own all of the rarity levels, you're going to get like half of a CD basically. Like that's.
I mean, yeah, it's more or less like an EP, like an extended play, which is normally 5 to 6 songs, but you got a bonus 1 plus it comes with 7 pieces of original art. and they're ones that are special to me. So, but I have lots more to come. And there's a specific line of them, actually. This one, the ape one included, that are inspired by real people. Some of them are my peers. Some of them are people that inspire me at higher levels of all masters of their craft. And so,
well, I hope the ape inspire. Well, I guess you're still here, so it's okay. But I hope the ape inspires your friend, not your enemy, because that's scary as hell if it's your enemy.
Yeah. No, this one's actually inspired by Joe Rogan. I listen to his podcast a lot while I draw. And so it's a tribute to him. He's got the bow. He's a bow hunter. He's got the podcast headphones on, and he's wearing a UFC 1 shirt because he's a MMA commentator. So
right, I didn't put two together. I knew that. And now that you put it out there, I see it. Right, yeah,
it's very really nuanced. I also kind of used his face a little bit. Like I used his eye, and I used a picture of him in this pose, which is normally how I'd make the composition. I Google search a couple different images, and then I kind of compose it in my head, and then just kind of try to figure it out how to connect the dots on the page. So
yeah, TC and I were talking about this, I think, once on a live stream. He says, I want that on a shirt, right? And I can't wait for the days where people like you, artists like you, will put out an NFT, and that replaces something like Etsy, right? So you put out an NFT, somebody buys the NFT, there's something that's coded in the back of the NFT that like gets triggered somehow when you make essentially the withdrawal, right? And you make the withdrawal of the commodity that's attached to the NFT, and that gets sent, directly to your house, right? And so that NFT is like proof of purchase. You can have it sent to you when you get it. Like having something like that on a T-shirt would be amazing, right? And then what that does too is it's kind of crazy because that actually transverses boundaries that we haven't done before, because now not only do you have NFTs, which are basically limited in numbers, which are rare, but now you have artists like yourself who have created T-shirts that are attached to those NFTs, that now those T-shirts are rare, right? Like my wife gets angry at me for not throwing out T-shirts. Imagine like how pissed she's going to be like when every T-shirt I own is a rarity verified number that comes like from a piece of art with an NFT, right?
I mean, it completely changes the dynamics of what merch is to an artist, and it makes it worth it. I mean, if we can, right now, I don't have much merch because the ROI doesn't make any sense. Like I could spend more money, I could invest in making NFTs and making more art than I would buying a bunch of T-shirts to then pander. That's brilliant. Like that makes merch, and it ties into an existing part of the bit of music that already is there, but it makes it A, more fun, and B, something you can wear. So it's bridging.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's doing it or even if it's possible yet. But I mean, if you want to carve that out, feel free to use it, man. It's all you.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know how to do it either, but I'm down to experiment. Let's put this ape on a shirt.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly. That could be our next podcast. What happens when you put an ape on a shirt? It'll be good. So this collection of NFTs that you have on sale on your site, then, so I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but these NFTs that you have for sale on your site, they're not attached to the real world pictures or anything like that yet. Number one, and number two, for the viewers out there. Are they on Wax? Are they on multiple blockchains? I mean, where are you peddling these NFTs, Taylor?
So the website is actually for physical prints. I set it up in November of last year before I learned about NFTs. So the site is actually for physicals. But I'm in the process of switching that over.
I gotta click the cart buy button more because I should have known that.
It's all good.
It's a really bad research. Okay, cool. So.
I do have a handful of them on OpenSea in ETH, but then I have all of my YoshiDrops stuff come in on Wax, and I really have been focusing on Wax and being a part of the community and been collecting myself since like, I don't know, probably like April of this year. Once I learned more about the space and just everything about Wax was so much more attractive to me, and so I've been really in that eco space and plan to continue to release on Wax.
Yeah, so I guess it leads back to something that you were saying before. Like you found out about NFTs from Gary Vee, and as far as I know, Gary Vee, he's a big ETH guy. I'm not even sure if he's paying much attention to what's going on in Wax. If I'm honest, he might be now, but I know he wasn't like back in the day. So I'm kind of curious, like what led you to Wax, and how did you find MBlue then? I mean, how did you how did you get connected with what MBlue and YoshiDrops were doing to go and seek them out?
Yeah, well, this is my favorite part, and really the whole catalyst of how I got into the space. So I learned about NFTs. I started doing a dive on TikTok. Then I got into Twitter, and I found a couple little group chats, and I started to learn that way. And then I was like, I like to learn about things by listening to podcasts. So I was like, I wonder if there's any NFT podcast out there. So I went on Spotify and I found the Nifty Show with Joel Comm and Travis Wright, and I started listening to that, and I was like, man, these guys are hilarious. They're
great. I agree.
Puns, they do accents. I like to do accents.
Right.
And I was like, oh, cool. So I started to learn about wax through them. And at first I was like, are they talking about earwax? Are they talking about cannabis? Like what? And I was like, oh, it's its own blockchain. I get it. And so then I started to learn that way. And I got so into it. Like I listened to I think they had 33 episodes when I got in. I listened to all 33 in like 2 days. And I have a podcast, but I'm not working on it as much anymore. But I was 33 episodes into my podcast, and I didn't know anything about their bad crypto. I was just so excited and enthralled that I just sent them an email like, "Hi, I'm Taylor. This is my stuff. I'm just 2 days into this NFT stuff, and I'm all in." And 2 weeks later, Joel emailed me back, and he was like, "Thanks, man. Like we really love the kind words." And we were chatting back and forth, because I had a bunch of different ideas. I was going to do a pixel project. I was figuring out how I could make humanimals a thing in NFTs. And then I happened to mention like, P.S., have you ever had a live performer on your show? And he was like, no, I like that idea. Do you want to come on the show in 2 days and be our first live performer? And I was like, right. Okay, yeah. And he was like, can we make an NFT and then sell it after the show? And I was like, sure. And so that was what happened. 2 days later, I was on the show and I played the first live performance song, one of mine called Don't Put the Guitar Down. I believe it's episode 39 on the Nifty Show. And then somewhere in my listening journey of those first handful of episodes, I was only thinking about it from a digital art standpoint. And then I heard MBlue's episode and I was like, it can be music too. And then I was like, this is what I've been working for all this time, not knowing, because I've just been creating because it's what I love to do. But I always knew deep down there was something, it was for something, and then it clicked for me. And so I learned about M through the Nifty Show, and then kept in touch with Joel and was talking back and forth. And then when Yoshi and MBlue teamed up together, they told Joel about it to get the word out, and he sent me a link before they went live, and he was like, hey man, check this out. And so I got on and I submitted, and they immediately got right back, and we had a couple Zoom calls. But it wasn't until 2 weeks ago when I met M in person that this whole thing kind of really exploded. And so that's
now I'm not sure if this speaks to just how awesome the Wax cryptocurrency NFT community is in general, or how incredibly fine-tune your senses on who to reach out to are, because like that's like two really big hits in my opinion, right? I've known MBlue for a long time, worked closely with him. He's pretty good about that kind of stuff and recognizing talent and incorporating people. But the Nifty guys as well, like they're quite good at that. So like I don't know if you had any fails in there, but that's two incredible home runs in my opinion.
No, I'm 2 for 2. I'm batting 1,000. It was incredible. I didn't even expect to hear back. The fact that Joel sent me back the initial email, I was stunned. I was just like, oh, I didn't expect to hear back. I was just stoked I was just so excited that they were there, because I was like, oh, cool. I can learn through listening to a podcast, which is really what I like to do while I draw. So I was been making NFT drawings while listening about and learning about NFTs, and I like that kind of multitasking. So.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think it's really groundbreaking, the fact that now YoshiDrops is going to allow artists like yourself to, put you're confusing me actually, to be honest, because like usually when I use artists, I use artist and artist, but now it's like artist squared with you, right? Because you're doing both sides of it. But basically, so you alluded to something like you're trying to start kind of this organization essentially that will protect artists in the future from something that might happen like COVID, right? Like we're basically, because like it's kind of crazy to me, like some of you people out there might know a little bit, like I'm a permaculturalist, which basically like I used to, I don't so much anymore because I'm more into, this side of things, but I design ecosystems, right? So ecosystems that are beyond a single point of failure, right? And our society, especially for creative people who are making a living, self-employed people who are making a living, entertaining other people, there's a single point of failure for them and their livelihood, essentially, right? And we found that out with COVID times, right? So this organization that you're building, I think it's really cool. I'm kind of interested to hear more about that. And like, does this organization do NFTs play a role in it yet, or do you have the future idea?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think that it's a perfect. I think that there's synergy there. I think that it could be easily integrated. I'm not sure what that looks like yet. But yeah, I mean, the sad part is not only did COVID completely wipe it out, but the rate of live music hasn't gone up much since the 80s. My dad was performing the similar types of gigs when he was coming up, and the pay was around $75 to $100 an hour, and it's still around that, and even though everything else has gone up, it's literally so what my organization is trying to do is to create a viable and sustainable way for performers like myself to just make a living doing our jobs, because it's one of the only professions where it's the only reason that it's basically built off a 70-year-old business model, which was based on small bars and restaurants and clubs that would people would pay tickets and then they'd pay the bar. But that's assuming that there's no internet and people are coming out in droves to see shows all over the place, and that just isn't the case anymore. And also with internet and streaming, all of that has devalued music and from the recording side. Unless
I was going to say that too, right? Like COVID was maybe the nail in the coffin, but I think the whole industry was probably going downhill because of that as well. And I'll admit this is a really bad thing for me to admit, but I haven't supported musicians by buying CDs or albums for a really long time, for the simple reason that like streaming services exist, and like you can listen to just about everything on YouTube. And basically what got me back into supporting artists was like something like YoshiDrops, which allows me to ensure that that my funds are going to the artists, and they're not being siphoned off into something else, which is like Uplift kind of came out of M-Blue's visionary grand plan. I kind of found M-Blue by chance as well. And we were doing something called Uplift Nation, where we were looking at charities and putting like, verifiability of where these funds were going on the blockchain, right? And it was really hard like to skirt these regulations, but it was the same kind of thing, right? Like nobody really knows where the money's going, right? You can, I don't want to get in trouble by calling these people out by names, but like Red Cross was a good one. Like, I mean, they raised a bunch of funds. They built 5 houses, like millions of dollars to build 5 houses in Haiti. Now, I think if you look into it, there were some other issues as well, like some issues with the Haitian government and like permits and things like that. And I'm not really sure what they did with those funds. I don't think it just disappeared into thin air. I mean, some of it definitely, I'm guessing, did, but like for the most part, it just got moved around and shuffled and everyone lost track. But that's, I think, what happens with a lot of music and artists and movies, movie creators and things like this, is like it gets pushed from desk to desk to desk. And by the time it gets to you, right, like it's this little crumb like you get to pick up and you get to say, oh, thank you. I was gonna quit, but I guess I can't now. So can I do this again? Because I don't really have a choice.
Totally. So what my organization is doing is essentially taking the small business and small club and venues and bar owners out of business with us, because we're still reliant on each other, and we need to be supporting each other, especially post-COVID, because not only do they need the entertainment to get a competitive edge, we need the work, but also the communities and the patrons of the people that go to their favorite restaurants and their favorite bars, they deserve it too. And so our tagline is unifying venues, communities, and artists. And what we're trying to do is essentially find one or two excellent top tier venues, clubs, bars, restaurants that already have butts in seats because they've survived the pandemic, and creating essentially a new touring network for live artists like myself to be able to play shows, have a calendar year, and be able to make, if you play 16 weekends a year, you make 20K. If you play the maximum, which is 38 weekends, you make 50K, which is just a livable wage. And I'm using stand-up comedy model as the model, being Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, sometimes Sundays, sometimes Wednesdays, because that's when the most people are out. It also gives us time to travel. But I've also been doing this for 14 years, and I've worked in bars and restaurants, and I've traveled, and kind of using all of that data that I've collected to try to make a sustainable opportunity for people who deserve to be able to who deserve to have a chance to make money entertaining, because there's so many of us out there that are even better than me. Like there's so many of my friends, all of us are struggling because the industry never really adapted to the internet. You know, they kind of sold us down the river yet again. And that's the beauty of NFTs, is that for the very first time, especially in music history, because music's been predicated on ripping off the artist from its inception all the way back into like minstrel acts in the early 1830s. It's the first time where we actually get to own our IP and be forever and be able to make money on it like we should. And that's the part that's just so incredibly exciting to me. I still can't even believe it. I can't believe that it's happening here, that I'm alive for it, that it's happening in real time. It's truly awesome in the truest sense of the word.
Well, yeah, and like I guess you not only do you get to create your own livelihood out of it, but like you said, you get to own your own craft. Like the beauty of, I think, NFTs and being able to unplug from that traditional business model, in a sense, is the ability to be able to create and get value, like a proper value. Well, I don't know about a proper valuation. I mean, you could try to sell your NFTs for $1 million each, and you probably wouldn't fare so well. I mean, your music is good. Sure. You might, but like, I don't think you'd be batting 1,000 after that, right? Like, so, but like, it's much like, I mean, you could also sell them for $1, and make thousands or hundreds of thousands of them, and I don't think that would be good either. But like, for the first time, it actually lets you to like experiment with your own value. Like, what do you think you're worth, right? Like, and I think all artists, whether you're a musician or a painter or a drawer, deserve that chance, I think, right?
Absolutely. Like, well, and YoshiDrops gives an opportunity to change the validation process, because right now it's anybody can enter the game of music. You can upload anything to Spotify. I heard a stat this week, there's 500,000 songs that get released every Friday. But there's no way to validate what's good and what's not, So, and it's not to say that YoshiDrops is the gatekeepers or by any means like the standard for what is good and what's not. But I look to comedy as far as the way what music could be. Comedy is thriving right now because comedians have podcasts, which they can own their advertising and own their space. There's no record label of comedy. There's no network of comedy that's really telling them what to do. And so because of that, they get to control the craft. And because of that, it's the most, I think it's doing them the best out of any art form right now. And there's no reason why music can't be that way. There's no reason why art can't be that way. And I think NFTs is that vehicle. So I think there's definitely integration for my organization down the line with NFTs, but I haven't fully figured it out yet. I think it might be kind of similar to what I did with MBlue, where it's like a live, like the artists go and they record themselves performing live, and you can buy the song that you heard at the show that you were at and own a piece of the magic from the show you were at, even if it's 30 people there or something like that. But I'm still trying to get it to, I'm still in the phase of building my pitch deck, and we're actually doing a renaming thing right now. My initial name was GIG. It was an acronym for the word gig, but we're going to try to make it more about live music and have it be more what we actually do. So
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm definitely not
to do
saying
this.
I'm definitely not saying this live on air, but there's some serious potential for how NFTs at live events could impact the whole industry, or even museums could impact the whole industry, because all of a sudden that ticket stub that like some people collect and put in a photo album that gets thrown out when you die because your grandchildren are just like, what? Who the hell is Bob Dylan? I mean, come on, seriously. Like, teach your grandchildren who Bob Dylan is. You need to do this, even if you don't like the guy. He's one of the. But anyway,
absolutely.
Like this little stub. All of a sudden now, because it's an NFT, it's limited in value. It has rarity. It's got music or art attached to it. I've said too much. Like yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like that's the thing, right? Like, and you can. Again, I don't know. You put that idea in my head, right? NFTs would allow you to stack everything on top of it, right? Like it's like a private Christmas party. It's like a private Christmas party for one, right? Like you show up at the company party with this NFT, and they start throwing you merch. They start throwing you extra drops. They start throwing you videos. They start throwing out like 10 free next concert tickets to like 100 people right, exactly. Right. And it's all verifiable, so those numbers exist. And you know what, maybe Taylor's music got a little bit slow for you, and you're not really that interested in it anymore. Or maybe Bob Dylan's music, when he got older, got a little bit better for you, and now all of a sudden, like, you're into that music, right? And the younger generations can now pick up these NFTs, which in a sense are Clubhouse memberships that offer all of the future value to be able to come back to them, right? Like, I mean, you're no longer throwing a bouquet of flowers over your head at a wedding, or tossing, your hat into the crowd. You're throwing the number of your hat virtually into a random number machine that it's going to make somebody really happy when it shows up in the mail. It's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. Something that you just made me think of is the education part of it, because so much of, I think if the general public knew the state of music industry, they would be just as outraged as artists are. Like there's a huge opportunity there to re-educate people through this new technology because it's exciting, relevant, and fun. I wasn't even thinking about using it as an education tool, but that's absolutely a mechanism. I think that I hadn't thought about that before.
This is an image of Taylor after he discovered NFTs.
Yeah, seriously.
for all of you who are wondering what this is.
Except I was actually jumping up and down.
Right, yeah, exactly. They had to tone it down. This is the other part of your website. So I'm kind of curious if you wouldn't mind describing we haven't talked about this yet. What kind of music inspired you? What kind of music do you play? What's your genre? If you can even put it into one. I mean, you might not even have one. I know lots of artists that do like things, but for people out there who might want to know,
Yeah. I mean, I get asked that question all the time. It's probably the most asked question. I still don't have a super solid answer for it. My short answer is soul folk, because I predominantly play solo and I sing with a lot of soul and heart. But really, my inspiration comes from all over. I just love great songs. I love great artists. I love my favorite types of songs are ones that are produced well, written phenomenally, and performed in a unique way. And that could be any genre. But some people that really inspire me, John Mayer is my favorite growing up. Taylor comes from my dad loving James Taylor, so I'm named after James Taylor.
Nice. That's awesome.
He's a huge influence. The fact that I play acoustic guitar and sing is pretty weird and ironic. Sometimes I think about that and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that actually came true. Mark Cohn is one of my favorite songwriters. He's famous for a tune called Walking in Memphis. But I also do a lot of performance-based stuff. So I beatbox a lot, and I whistle, and I do mouth trumpet, and I play harmonica. So Neil Young and Justin Timberlake and Prince and Michael Jackson are all huge influences from a performance standpoint. Prince being the pinnacle of that. When you can do the Super Bowl in the rain in heels, I don't think it gets much better than that from a performance standpoint.
Now, is this Prince, or is this artist formerly known as Prince, or is this Prince after he was the artist formerly known as Prince? I get confused with the three.
This was after he was the artist formerly known, so I think it was the full transition. But yeah,
nice.
it was. I forget which year it was. I think it was early 2000s. But he performed in the rain, in heels, at the Super Bowl, and absolutely crushed it. And I still think that holds up as one of the best performances of all time.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, very similar, not exactly, but similar taste to mine as well. I guess my Prince would be David Bowie, if I'm honest about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like I would say, there's some really good
Queen,
stuff there.
Also, I love Queen. Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, Queen's great. Yeah.
The most talented male vocalist of all time, I think.
Right. And one of the best documentaries ever made, to be, well, not like historical documentaries, I don't know what you call it, docudramas, whatever the hell that was, the Bohemian Rhapsody one that just released a couple of years ago. Brilliant. If you haven't watched it, and if you haven't watched it and you don't know or like Queen, watch it and your whole perspective will change. Right?
Totally. Actually, I was thinking that the Rocket Man one that came out after that about Elton John was going to be in the same lane as Bohemian Rhapsody. I just assumed, and then it turned out to be a musical, and I got really disappointed because I was like, oh, it's going to be like a biopic just like the other one. I was like, oh man, that's okay. But I'm really just. I
totally want to put that on a t-shirt. That'd be great. Like, you know, we could name the t-shirt company, you know, like the Hecklers. The Nosebleed Hecklers or something, and on the t-shirt we put like, I'm a musician and I walked out of your musical, right? Like, that'd be a great show. I love that. Not in reference to anyone in particular. I'd like to, I'm not even sure if this will work, but if you're okay with it, I'd actually like to try to play this song here.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we can do it. Can you see the full screen?
Yeah.
Like, is it the little box now, or is it the big box? Because I don't
see the video is the big box, and we're little on the side.
Okay, perfect, great. So I expanded it. So let's do this, and let me if you can't hear it, let me know, because I can't see anything. I'm blind. All I see is a. Do
you mind if I give a little intro on this?
Yeah, go for it. Sure, totally.
So I wrote this song in 2012, I think, 2013, and I believe that music is the world's common language. I can go anywhere in the world and I can play my songs, and I believe that there's an ability to connect that way. And I always wanted to write a song in another language, and this achieved that goal. I was dating a woman from Montreal, and she spoke fluent French, and I took 2 years of French and still very poorly speak it, but barely at all. But she did help me write this song, and I've memorized it, and now I perform it. So this is also one of the songs that's included in the drop. And,
oh, really? Cool. Very cool.
The very first video I shot when I moved to LA in 2014. But the song's called Bleu. And I want to see if you can get the feel or the vibe of the song, even though the words may not be relevant unless you speak French.
I'm really hoping this will work. If it doesn't, I have a hack. But yeah, let me know if it doesn't.
Okay. If not, you have to wait for the drop. We wanted to kind of shoot it in a silent film style too.
Is it working? Not.
It's working. It's a little laggy,
rien passait. Et ce soir, avec qui tu vas dîner? Je suis heureux. Ma chérie, je suis fini. Je suis prêt.
Yeah, so I don't know how
Sorry.
the audio was for everybody. It might be a little spotty, but feel free to check that out on my website if you want a little bit of a clearer audio. But I think you get the gist.
Yeah, definitely go back to the audio. I apologize. This always happens to me when I try to play things from in the window. It always ends up not playing through and playing from my crappy computer speakers. Actually, which really isn't cool. But
it's a short one. It's only barely 3 minutes. So.
Yeah, and can I just say I was. Well, that's weird. Okay, that's the uplift. Can I just say that I was wrong? I said squared. I'm pretty sure that's cubed because there's so I used to live in Hawaii, and there was this really kind of eccentric, lovable weird dude in Hawaii whose family owned the Bank of Hawaii. And he was the younger brother of the people who owned the Bank of Hawaii. Obviously, when you own banks, you're not fulfilled. Don't let the textbooks fool you. And he had this thing for arts. So he opened this really small theater. There were 25 seats in the theater. They were all lazy boy recliners. And you could bring in America, this is unheard of too, right? But you could bring in a bottle of wine. And he showed mostly foreign films, a lot of French films, a lot of Eastern European films. And just watching the first third of that, it just gave me flashbacks to when I used to go and sit in these recliners in this little weird random movie theater and watch these foreign French films that I loved. Because if you've never watched a foreign French film, they're full of really bizarre, subtle movements of the actors. It's not like an American drama where they try to blow you away with the action. Sorry, American action film where they try to blow you away with the heat and the power. Like French, and I'm sure you can Montreal, having a girlfriend and living there or being present there for a while, you can understand like the French, the way that they deal in subtle movements and momentums. I don't know if that's how you are in real life, but you have that down pat, my friend. You knocked that out of the park. That was just brilliant.
I mean, I can't take full credit. My good buddy and my first roommate when I moved to LA, Zach Clausen, directed that, and I planted the seed. I was like, hey, this song is weird. It's French. Whenever I play it live, people kind of don't get it. But I was like, I really think that we can make a great video from it. And we literally just shot it in the back alley of our crappy little apartment building that we lived in downtown LA. So he directed me. So I have to give him all the credit because I was like, what if we did like a Charlie Chaplin-esque silent film thing, but then we just went guerrilla style. We just walked around downtown LA and shot it in a couple of days, and he really made the whole thing come together. So I have to give my buddy Zach credit for that.
You're a scammer too. It wasn't even in Montreal. You filmed it in LA. That's like the reverse of what normally happens, right? You film American films in Canada because our currency is let's just say better at buying things with more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's so funny too, because it was within the first week that I moved there, and I just happened to randomly get a roommate who was a videographer who we had connected. We had the same sense of humor. I actually just spent a couple of days with him in LA when I was there last week visiting, and just so lucky that the first person I met was also became one of my he'll be a friend for life now. And we made 6 other videos together, which are out there in the YouTube floating around for a lot of the songs that are on the drop, actually. So.
My 3 favorite things is you riding backwards on an escalator, looking at yourself kind of in the mirror, because I do that too.
That was a fun shot.
You standing on the subway platform, the lines on the bottom of the train, the way that they move, they actually make it look like you're moving, not the train. So that film angle was really cool. And the fidgety kind of standing against the kind of like, wall, holding, I guess, a case or something in front of you. Almost perfectly still, but like a fidget, like a slight motion in your body that you can tell is coming from your foot, but you can't see anything move. Like that, there's just something about that that's like, yeah, I can resonate with that. I could be cool, be calm, be cool, but like everybody, it's
because I had a little earbud in my ear that was playing the song, so I could keep perfect time so we could sync it. So I think I was just innately just keeping time. My favorite part in the video is there's a part where vocally it goes. I go up with the note. It goes just me, and I went like this with my hand for the note to go up, and Zach accidentally had the shot too low, and he happened to move it up right when I did that, so it looks like I made the shot go up, and it goes with the note. It's the most subtle part of the thing. It was an accident. He's like, dude, look at this part. He's like, you hit that note and you do this, and I happened to just be framed too low, and it just creates this little magic moment. If you ever want to go back and check it out, that's my favorite part of the video.
Well, yeah, and you make an excellent point, because I guess when will people? I mean, most of the people who are in this chat or who watch this back later probably get it, but when will people learn that the best part of life and the most appreciated things that come out of it are those things that are unplanned and unexpected. And sorry, I apologize for this dark turn, but I'm a big advocate of the fact that we should already be on the moon, right? Like we should already have colonized space. Like we're holding ourselves back with these structures. And I think, maybe one of the breakthroughs that can enlighten and enable people are from industries like music or industries like art, where these people are already thinking outside the box, and you let that creativity run free, and you figure out a way to enable monetization of it. Another really good example, which is kind of crazy that I'm bringing this up, but something like esports, right? It gets criticized. You get really unhealthy. You're gonna sit there. Right. I probably said this on yesterday's stream because I've been thinking about it a lot. But anyway, you right. It gets criticized by people who sit in an office chair for 8 hours a day, staring at a computer screen, doing absolutely nothing productive for society. I'm sorry, if you do sit in front of a computer screen for 8 hours and do something productive for society, I apologize if I offended you. But if you can do something productive for a company sitting in front of a computer screen, imagine what you could do if you took a little, just 1 foot outside the box, right?
Totally. My 8-year-old nephew is an absolute wizard in video games. He's been playing since he was 4. He's already 4 years in. He's actually the one that taught me about Minecraft, which is, once I learned about all of it, I got it because of him educating me when he was 6, by the way. But I've just been advocating to my girlfriend and to her sister, and encourage that. He's already got that. He gets it. And he's super talented, and there's a future in that, like a legitimate future. And
right.
I think that
with anything
you're passionate about, follow it.
Yeah.
Follow it. Holler.
Right, I'm getting yelled at constantly, like, but not really, because my wife, she's a sweetheart, but like she's always saying to me, like, so my daughter is just over 1.5, right? She's already figured out that the iPad controls both the TV and the stereo. And like she's already figured this out, right? And she figured this out like shortly after she could walk, which was shortly after 1, right? She wants to watch TV. She points. She brings us the iPad and she points to the TV. We're like, no TV. You watch too much TV. She points to the TV. And we said, no TV. Too much TV. She hands us the iPad and she points to the stereo because she knows that we're gonna put the stereo on for her, right? Because like, I mean,
right.
why not?
She knows
why
that's the
not
remote.
put that music on, right? And like, so that like these ideas are just blowing my mind. And that like, I'm an educator, you know, in training. Well, I trained to be an educator. I took my higher degree in that, and like, it's amazing what some schools are doing, especially in the U.S., right? Like, and so that is the opposite of your industry in a way. Like COVID shutting these schools down actually forced educators to implement this technology into the classroom, which in a way might be a good thing, right?
Sure.
So like, right, it kind of forces, you know, and there's other good things with music too, right? Like the idea now that you as a musician are in a sense forced to collaborate with other musicians, like without ever meeting them online, like basically in the squares of Hollywood type of style of situation as well, right? So I guess like that's another question that I have, like, you know, you gave us the dark side of it, and you gave us the silver lining about finding NFTs and releasing this drop. Like, you know, what are your aspirations as an artist for the future in terms of NFTs? Like what are you planning after this drop? What are you planning this drop to lead towards? Do you have other collaborations in mind, other pieces in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I have a vault of music and of art that I'm going to continue to release. I haven't fully figured out what that's going to look like yet, but I'm sure that's going to be unraveling after this first drop. But really, my goal is to get my organization off the ground. I basically have a blueprint for an airplane, and we gotta figure out how to get it lifted. So that's one of my goals, incorporating NFTs in that. But really, my main focus, and COVID made me realize this, is that for so many years I was focusing on myself and trying to get better and trying to worry about my own career. And I realized that I'm much more motivated and much more excited about working on something that is greater than myself. So I have a whole series of NFTs that I've drawn that are inspired by my peers. And so I want to introduce them to the space that way. So like by introducing the drawings that I've made of my friends and having people listen to their music, by learning through the art that I've created for them, and just get them into the space and get them excited about the possibilities. Because if we can get artists a living wage and we can get them promotional and extra revenue streams through NFTs, then I don't know what can happen. But it's exciting to think about empowering people that deserve to be empowered, and to really attack the things that are plaguing us, for lack of a better term, but attack them with one of the most powerful tools, which is music. And it's been, I don't want to say stifled, but it's been not it's been too difficult to get the message out and to get the word out. And I think that's because of the era in which we live in. You know, like the streaming companies, before streaming was a thing, they came to the record labels and they were like, hey, we have this new technology, let's partner up. And the record labels were making so much money in the 90s from CDs, from selling them for $20 for one song. They were like, yeah, right. you guys can go kick rock. And they're like, okay. So now it's a tech company that's in charge of music, and they're all about how many people are on their platform. And that's how a stream has gone from $1 or a purchase available for $1 from iTunes to now worth less than a fraction of a cent. And
yeah, I mean, and then, like, that to me is
market. So
that to me is actually ridiculous. Like, I don't want a top 10 play. So again, another one of my crazy ideas that might never come to fruition, but I don't want a top 10 playlist that somebody else decides because that number of people happen to be listening to something that is playing in the background when they're not really paying attention to it. I want playlists to be decided by NFTs that are backed by tokens, and every time that the NFT plays once. It sounds crazy, but actually what Sebastian and Yoshi did with the Dutchy thing, like it wasn't that far of a cry from it, right? But like I want an NFT that like every time it plays, a little bit of that wax gets released to whoever it needs to be released to. You say the artist, like you say the musician, I kind of refuse to say it, and here's why. There's lots of musicians out there that play other people's songs, right? There's lots of musicians out there that have a great voice. And I'm not knocking them. I mean, there's different parts of, right? You need a whole slew of instruments for an orchestra, right? But there's people who are like yourself, who are multi-talented, who do everything, who play multiple musical instruments. But then there's other people who just have an amazing voice, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I don't want that person with an amazing voice just because they're singing the song to get all the credit, right? Like, I want the people who are writing the music. I want the people who are playing the background music. One of the best concerts I ever saw was Bob Dylan, actually, believe it or not. And I was about maybe 6 years ago, which is crazy because he couldn't even stand up for more than 2 songs. He had to sit down at the piano and play. And the reason that it was so good, like his raspy voice is good. I like old Bob Dylan, by the way. But like the reason it was so good was because of the backup musicians, right? And I could, like, this is before any of this YoshiDrops, any of this NFT stuff in my life anyway. And I kept thinking, I'm like, I wonder, like, honestly, how much those backup musicians make, because that band was fantastic. They were absolutely amazing, right? And like, if you put Bob Dylan, the legend that he is, on that stage without them, he would have flopped hard, right? Like hard. Like, totally. And it's like, how, right?
I should have clarified. I mean, my organization, and when I say artists, I mean original artists, because I'm talking about those who can write, sing, and play. Because before, up until the technology accelerated so quickly, and anybody can now make an album without even knowing how to play an instrument. You can make an album on a computer. I'm talking about analog, original artists, just like what you're talking about. And
I think I think most people got that. I ran on tangents. Yeah. But yeah, like, imagine if, like, every time that person, that NFT was played, a small portion of that NFT, in a sense, a wheel of that, of what that NFT was backed by, was burnt and released to the artist, right? Like, that's your release mechanism. That's your funding mechanism. And when that, timer ticks out, right? Like, the last play of that drop, Mission Impossible, the NFT disintegrates. And if you want to play it in your club, or you want to, like, I love mixed music as well. Like, right. Like, I love people who are spinning records, and that I'm a big fan. Right. But if you want to use that NFT to be able to spin those records, then you have to go back and you have to, like, purchase another one. Right. You can't just use it over and over and over again. Right. Like, you can't just copy it. You can't just copy it to an MD. How did MDs not take off, by the way? Like, it was brilliant. It was a small disc inside a package that never got scratched. Like you said, like, the music industry, poured it overnight. A lot of people got tired of it, like connoisseurs as well got tired of it. They came in and they said, well, we have the ability to record this shit, and it sounds just as good as if we buy the CD, so why don't we do it that way, right? And that was kind of the birth of streaming. That was the downfall of the whole industry. We have a chance, I think, now to, like, remodel the whole thing from the ground on up in, like, a trickle down or trickle up economy, maybe, that works. Like, one that will never work for the American or any other country system, this trickle-down economy. I don't think it works. I'm sorry, I could be wrong. This isn't a political show, but anyway, like, we have the ability to be able to incentivize everyone along the way, potentially, with what the power of NFTs could be. I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think we're quite there technologically yet, but I don't think we're that far away, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't think of a better tool for adoption than music, because who doesn't like music? You know what I mean? Like, there's also an opportunity for a new type of curation that hasn't existed before, based on the opportunities here, which is what I'm excited about too. And
I got yelled at a little bit. I got not yelled at. I mean, I got told I was wrong the other day, which is fine. I mean, I could accept that, but it's funny because I'm a weird hippie that, like, is now, like, kind of pro business, which is kind of bizarre because like it took NFTs and crypto to like get me to realize that like, you know, I think it's like the 60s, you know, those crazy hippies from the 60s, they're all the rich guys in America now, right? Like they're the ones that like, okay, I'm going to buy a record company and make a shit ton of money, right? Like these are like your people, right? And so I think it's like funny, but I think that, you know, what I would like to see from musicians actually, and a lot of blockchain people don't want to see this, right? So I'm kind of curious on your take, but I would like to see actually, unless you own an NFT of certain ones, that you can't listen to the whole track, or certain features are missing, or like it's like when you take a photo and you take that grayscale, like when you watch the NFT, if you don't actually have it in your wallet, you can't see the color version, right? You can maybe hear the whole song. Or maybe it's like a, you know, like a dumbed down version, like my computer audio speakers versus like the real Dolby surround sound experience, right? Like, but like I think like from an artist perspective, obviously the industry could manipulate this like crazy, but like from an artist perspective, that would be nice, right? Because it would actually like force people to buy the NFT if they wanted to listen to it, and it would give those NFTs a higher resale value. However, a lot of crypto people say, well, that's not what crypto is about. Crypto is about freedom, you know, and you should be able to go onto the blockchain. Everything should be open and transparent. I see that side of it as well. I'm just worried about how long it takes for, like right now, the crypto market, the blockchain market is a really small percentage of people, and they want to see it succeed, right? Like they're invested in it. And so like when I see art like yours that I can support, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my hands on as many of them as I can. Because like I know that those portions of those funds are going to like, you know, the company, but portions of those funds are going back to you as well, right? But we're like a really small test group. So how long do you think this will last? Do you think that there will be a situation in the future that's like now where everyone just downloads everything for free? And like, what's that going to do to the artists that are creating it? Like, is there a fear there? Or do you just think that that's a normal part of any industry and it doesn't matter? You'll fare better on your own with NFTs in a sense than you would having to go through the through the gauntlet of what exists today. Sorry, that was really long, but I think you got my gist.
It's okay. I mean, where I see the potential is the fact that we don't have the old system has been in place for a long time and it's never been in the artist's favor. This is designed to be in the artist's favor, and I'm not concerned about the industry being worried about it because I mean, like, I think that there's going to be an integration at some point. I think that they'll have to, because it'll grow to a point where they'll be like, oh, we need to get in on this. But at that point, I hope it'll be too late. But I also believe in being able to incentivize lots of corporate entities to be profitable for doing the right thing. You know, I think that's totally a possibility. But I like the idea of the freedom. I think artists should be able to do whatever the hell they want. I think if you want to release a clip and you want to just sell it that way, or you want to release the whole song, or you want to have the art be the thing that gets revealed after you buy it, or like I'm excited about telling my friends like, hey, there's this new technology, and the way I've been describing it to them, because there's so much misinformation. Like, everybody's still, all musicians are now our own promoter. If you're independent, your own promoter, your own manager, your own social media coordinator, everything but the music, you know?
Okay.
And that just irritates me so much, because without the craft itself, none of that other stuff would exist. So it's just completely ignoring that part of it, which is the most important thing. And that's what the industry is doing largely at a whole too. So it's like, imagine what it would be like if it's focused on the actual craft, which is the power of music, which is inspiring people and telling stories and creating unity, which is what we really need right now. But I think that there is a possibility. I mean, I don't see how. I feel like once things get out there, it's really hard to put them back in the box, you know. And I feel like the NFTs are one of those things. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I'm obviously invested and biased in it, but from my standpoint, trying to survive in the current system for 14 years, this is by far my best option. Right. And I'm describing it to my artist friends like, pretend Dr. Strange came and he made like a new portal, and inside this portal there's all this possibility for your art, and it could be anything, but you don't have to change anything that's in this realm. You can still do all the things you're doing. You can still go after those streams. You can still play that TikTok game. You can do whatever path you want, but know that this one isn't set out to steal from you. And I think once that word gets out with artists, because there's such a huge industry now of just people preying on artists because they have passion and they know that they can make money from somebody regardless of their talent. But that also, the people that deserve an opportunity, that messes with their mental, because so it's so hard to get to a point where you're making a livable wage that most people give up or quit before they get to see their potential. And I'm just crazy enough to have never done that.
Right, fair enough.
I see a unique opportunity to be able to help, but I also just want to help my peers and help myself out to look toward the next generation, because there's a bunch of girls out there right now that are learning how to play guitar because of Taylor Swift, and that we're going to see that come up. You know, we're going to see music builds on top of each other, and it's something that we innately do as the human race. And I think there's huge potential to inspire Gen Z and inspire the Gen Alpha, whatever is coming afterwards, with this type of stuff, because it's what we do innately. We create and we use it to unify. And I think that everything has an equal and opposite reaction, and the pendulum's been swinging one way for a long time. And I think we're on the cusp of it. I hope at least we're on the cusp of it coming back the right way. It feels like that to me. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I have to conclude. I have one rhetorical question and one request. So the rhetorical question is, I'm just curious what animal would represent Doctor Strange in your series, because I think that would be really cool.
That's a great idea.
You're right. Like that's. I'm not sure myself. I've got a few pondering in my head actually, but I'm gonna have to ponder a little bit longer. But. Go for it. Ask the question.
Favorite animal off the top of the head, non-domestic. Just like if you had to choose, like not thinking about it, just.
It's a really difficult one for me because it changes on a daily basis depending on my mood. But right now, my favorite animal is a sea otter, actually.
That's my favorite.
Sea otters are so underappreciated. Like, it's crazy.
I agree. I have a self-portrait of myself as a sea otter, and I have two of my other friends.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that.
So I have 3 otters in my collection. So that's valuable information. I'm in the process now of making an NFT series, inspired by all the people that I've met so far in the space. So that's valuable information. Thank you.
I also really like tigers, but I have a problem liking a tiger right now because you're just so fun and playful that it just took a really weird turn. I'm sorry.
That's why I like the otters. I get it.
But yeah, and so I mean that's very cool. So this show is actually called Before the Drop, and I've been pondering about doing another one called After the Drop, and it just so happens that your drop is being pushed back to the 17th. So that might be a fun idea, but that's actually not my request. One of the things that Corey and I do, we have our show, but we also do these roundtables on another network. And we try to find guests of like mind. And I would just, if you're open to it, I would just love to throw you in a room with some people that I think you would just get on really well with. They're doing, things with NFTs, trying to infiltrate the real world, trying to get people to understand. And basically, I would love to build a show around people like yourself. I don't know what that show looks like. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. But you're giving me just all of these things to think about, and it really resonates with me from the uplift art side and the charity, creative philanthropic side. And I think that's probably what Blue saw in you as well. Don't get me wrong, the music is amazing, the art is wonderful, but you throw that incentive that you have to just better the world through your experiences and prop up things that shouldn't be failing in the first place with the organization that you're trying to create. And I think it just brings a whole new level of magic to what you're trying to do. So if you're willing, please come join us sometime.
My answer is 100% yes, as many times as you want, whatever you want to do. I'm talking to Blue about possibly doing another type of show. I love talking to people. It's one of my 3 favorite things other than music and art. I love chatting with people, especially these types of stuff. So I think you might got muted somehow. I didn't mute you, did I? I can't hear you anymore, but okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, I'll 100% come and talk to anybody, to come talk to you again, whatever I got to do to keep hanging out here. So yeah.
I mean, thank you for that, because I would love you to hang out here all the time. So please,
yeah,
please come back.
I'm all about the hang, man. I'm all about the hang.
Yeah,
that's
great.
one of the number one things in music is it's a lot of hurry up and wait. So especially in the studio. So it's all about the hang. Oh no, you got muted again. I don't know what's happening. I'm not touching anything. There you go.
Sorry, my mic's getting wonky. I think it's the internet's way of telling us that we need to save more for the next stream. Actually,
fair enough. Fair enough.
So thank you, Taylor. Thank you for joining us. Look out for the drop on the 17th. Go check out the website, and we'll catch you all tomorrow and for the rest of our shows, and hopefully Taylor again sometime soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a blast. Thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for the drop on the 17th. Appreciate you.